Welcome back to Gaijin Hideout. I'm Jeff Gaijin, and we're back today with more Dragon's Dogma 2. So today, I'm creating the definitive tier list of vocations in Dragon's Dogma 2, ranked from best to worst. So I'm here in the game right now, just so you know. I've been playing this game all summer. I'm here in the unmoored world. I'm looking right at the true ending of the game. Been enjoying the post game, been enjoying the main game. And just also so you can see, I have maxed out in this playthrough that I've done all of the different vocations. So I made a point to play with every single one and really try and get good at, all of them, or as many of them as I could. We'll get into that. But a little more details about my bona fides here, just so you know I'm not, talking out my butt or whatever. I've got easily over 200 hours in the game at this point. I've just basically dwelled on this game all summer and really enjoyed it. And now that I've really gone through all these different vocations, it's time. It's time for us to rank these bad boys. So just a few ground rules before I get into it. This is not going to be what is the best vocations, because I think in a game like this, you can actually kind of argue that some of these vocations are so broken or can be made so broken that there are best and worst. I'm ranking these best to worst in terms of how enjoyable they were to me. And if you are familiar with my streams, you'll probably see that it's a mixture of like, okay, is it good to use? Is it like good? Is it a good vocation objectively, but then subjectively, do I personally like have fun with it? So just because something is like really guaranteed to like melt bosses or one shot everything, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's an S for me. For me, it's going to be at the end, it's going to be about fun. And for me, fun is a mixture of like, is it good to play? Is it fun to play? Did I get to the end? Did I enjoy my journey? So with all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, to begin with, we're going to start off with Fighter. The Fighter vocation, for me, I'm actually going to put in the C tier. I'm probably going to get a little blowback from that, but just respectfully, for me personally, I enjoyed the concept of the Fighter. I think the Fighter has the dopest outfits. The end game item for the Fighter, the sword is called Dragon's Dogma. Like, come on, it's awesome. But unfortunately, for me, just the counter-based mechanics and kind of the overall way in which the Fighter hits was not impactful enough for me. I think part of that has to do with like maybe I didn't fully invest in like Dwarven smithing to really get the max stagger effect out of that for Fighter. But just for me personally, I would really like to see something like Fighter have like more weight to it, more reactions from the enemies. And just because it might just be because of the way that Dragon's Dogma 2 is set up, but for me, it was more like I was just kind of flailing a mace or a sword or whatever and flailing a shield as a, even as a counter. It didn't quite hit as well as I thought it would from the trailers. So I enjoyed it. It wasn't the worst, but like that, I gotta kind of put it in C tier because it just never really clicked for me, unfortunately. All right, next one for me is going to be Archer. Archer, I'm going to give a B. It's a B for me because in terms of the fun factor, it was definitely fun. I really enjoyed the aiming. It was massively improved from the Strider and Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. Like the way you could aim, the aiming mode that you could go into, some of the different vocation skills were kind of interesting, but it ultimately kind of came out a little underpowered and a little clunkier in terms of mobility than I was expecting. I was hoping for like a full Legolas experience, Legolas from Lord of the Rings. Like I was hoping it would be almost a little bit more nimble, which maybe, I don't know how you would do that without it being super broken because you have the thief is nimble. We'll get into him in a second. But for me, the athleticism parts of the Archer, I never really clicked for me. And just the even like the the jumping ability, the kickoff ability. I never quite fully got it, but I really did like the weapons that you could use, like the bows that you could use. I liked some of those skills I really enjoyed, and just overall kind of being able to sit back and shoot and still kind of move around pretty quickly. As an archer, this is probably the best archer-based experience I've had in an action RPG, I think. So for that reason, it's going in the B tier. By the way, let me know if you agree or disagree as I go through in the comments down below, and give me your tier list. Like, give me what you think was what was your least favorite to favorite, all of that stuff, and tell me which ones you think are broken. We're not really doing it based on which are the very best, but which vocations do you think are broken? Speaking of broken and awesome, I'm now going to get into the Thief vocation. So Thief vocation for me is going all the way up in S. I loved this vocation so much. I loved it from the moment I laid eyes on it. It was just perfect. It's not perfect. There's some things that could be improved, like all of these, but it was so fun from such an early, so early on in the game. A lot of these vocations, they are a little bit tricky to figure out because you have to worry about spacing and things, and maybe blocking in the case of the fighter, or just making sure that your positioning is very important. But with the Thief, that was really easy to get around because of his dodge ability. I really like or I guess it's a quick step forward. I like that it wasn't just a dodge. I like that it shoots you forward in one direction. It gives you like a lot of momentum. It's a little weird, a lot to handle at first, but it just allows you to go so quickly into the combat and just start honing your skills without worrying too much about just getting randomly hit by the enemies. There's so many things I want to go into with the Thief. My brain's melting down thinking about it, but the skills were amazing as always. My little Sonic the Hedgehog spin dash ability, Skull Splitter was back, and that's just broken on enemies. But there's all kinds of other cool things. Like, he really excels at climbing up enemies, assassinating their weak spots. The ability where you could throw the rope and stagger people was awesome. So many things. The actual thievery part, not actually that interesting. But the most interesting part was his maester skills. One of them, I don't remember what it was called exactly, but I think it's like it's incinerating. It's something, but one of them is an explosive ability that damages you and melts bosses. And the other maester skill that the Thief gets is invincibility. It just makes you completely invincible. You're dodging, you auto dodge any attack that would land damage on you, including the aforementioned explosion-based maester skill. It's just so broken and so much fun. So the fact that it's a great vocation, and it was so much fun to play as. I really enjoyed it. I used it all throughout the early game, and I used it. That was what I was using primarily. When I wasn't trying other vocations out, up until I got the warfare vocation, and then even after that, after getting the warfare vocation, I used Thief as a core part of all my builds. So I love the Thief. I could go off about the Thief forever, but we're going to move on. Next up is going to be Mage. So Mage is going to go solidly in B tier. Now, those of you that saw me do my initial tier list, I did a tier list where I predicted where I thought I would end up with all of these vocations based on just my blind reactions to seeing these in trailers. Mage, I thought I was going to hate the most. I thought Mage and Sorcerer were going to not be very good. Just because of the way they controlled and the hovering, and I've never been a magic user guy in these games. I like big bonk swords. I like cool thief things. I like stuff like that. Mage changed my mind on this. Mage was the first one that I played in the game before Sorcerer, and the hovering ability is so fun. It's great for platforming. It's like a must-have. Also, mage is obviously essential because it is the only vocation that can heal, and it is so it is critical to have. You're always going to have a mage in your party, so it is critical, and it is actually quite fun to play. However, I will say the actual aiming of the spells. That whole system, I think, leaves a little bit to be desired in terms of precision. And so that's why it's not a little bit higher. That combined with, there's just not a ton of spells that I found very exciting or interesting. I really get a lot out of the high energy moments in this game. And for mage is a lot more for... you can get a lot more cerebral, a lot more tactical with the mage, and that's just not really what I was looking for. And then the offensive spells that are they're okay. I do distinctly remember enjoying playing the mage, but overall for me, this is like a huge improvement from where I thought I was going to be. I thought it was going to be C or D tier. I came into this very grug brained, like I don't want to do mess around with a lot of magic. So, this is pretty good for me. So, moving on, we are going to talk about the warrior next. So the warrior vocation, I'm going to give a low A. I'm going to put it in A tier, and here's why. So, like, I love heavy weapon builds. I've come to learn that about myself the last year or two as I played action RPGs. In Elden Ring, for example, I'm doing an Elden Ring playthrough on my Twitch channel on Tuesdays, and I am using two colossal swords. I put it all in strength. I just love the bonk stuff. So I really enjoyed the Warriors' core mechanics. I thought that was really interesting, that if you get the timing down of like the basic attacks and you get that tink, tink, tink going, you're going to have a heavy weapon user that has momentum that almost speeds up his attacks. And it builds upon itself. So the more you can hit that combo, the more devastating damage you can do. I also really enjoyed a lot of his abilities. The warrior has seems like he has a lot of vocation skills. I mean, he seems like he has a lot of them. Some of them were just for show and were still fun. Like you could the one where you run and can impale a mob and then throw them. That's hilarious. But others are very effective. There's like an upward slashing ability that's very good for slashing up and hitting the head of like a lot of the bosses, especially the bipedal bosses, to stagger them. Warrior's great for staggering bosses. I would just say that it's not in S tier for me, and it's kind of more on the low A side because it's not. It could be a lot more polished, I think. Two reasons. It could be a lot more polished in terms of the overall experience with the weightiness of it. It's kind of similar to the fighter. I didn't feel like the weightiness of like slamming this sword around and stuff like that. You feel it on certain skills that you use incidentally, but you don't feel it in the core weapon that you're throwing around. The other thing is, I think a lot of the skills that the warrior had could have been put to better use, I just found them to not be very useful. So I found my core 4 and I kind of stuck with it. But overall, enjoyed the warrior. Still prefer Elden Ring for like big bonk stick vocation or classes in action RPGs, and I'm looking forward to trying out Monster Hunter because I heard that the Monster Hunter heavy weapon class is the best kind in all of gaming. That's someone in chat told me that, so let me know if that's true or not. But yeah, that's my take on Warrior. Sorcerer. Now we're going to get into Sorcerer. Now this is the biggest surprise because, I thought I was going to go like D for Mage and maybe B for Sorcerer. And what it turned out to be the case is that for me, I really like these magic vocations a lot more than I thought. So we have Mage and B. Sorcerer gets a low S for me. I thoroughly enjoyed playing Sorcerer. I never played Sorcerer. I never played there's a good amount of vocations I never played in Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, the first one. But I always got to my partner pawn was a sorcerer, so I knew it was powerful. I knew the attacks were going to be cool, but I didn't know how fun it was going to feel to actually play as a sorcerer. The sorcerer streams on my channel are some of the most fun I had, like raw fun. I'm laughing hysterically. The two maester skills for the sorcerer are they're so broken. Like they're so broken. They're not even, I don't even know if they're that broken. They're just outrageous. They're just outrageous what you can do. You have Meteoron, and you have the Cyclone, the Maelstrom, Maelstrom. And Maelstrom is just this massive, like, tornado that comes up. It's just so ridiculous how it takes up your whole screen. And Meteoron felt so good to use on a Drake for revenge the first time that I used it. I really, really enjoyed because Drakes will cast that spell on you if you've played this game, and just to have that power, like a boss level power, just to be able to use whenever I want, just to nuke everything, 5 meteorites, blowing up your entire screen is hilarious. And when you get multiple sorcerers on your team and you start dual casting that Meteoron spell, it just melts your whole game. It's just ridiculous. Everything's exploding. It's so fun. It's not the most utilitarian. It's not the most productive by far, but it is so fun. That combined with the ability to platform, I really liked that as well. It was like the mage, but with all these other fun things. This is like the have fun, do goofy stuff vocation. And it also, part of the reason it's an S is it has a good amount of utility as well. Having the sorcerer when you're in warfare is kind of crucial to my build, at least. One, because the sorcerer can recharge the stamina bar, which is huge, because that means you can run or you can use a lot of moves and then very quickly press triangle to recharge the stamina bar. Game changer. That's awesome that they did that. The other thing is, Augural Flare is like a secondary. It's like a less flashy skill, but it is a hugely broken late game vocation skill that you can use in warfare builds to just decimate enemies. I played around with it a little bit on a few streams, and it's just crazy how you can just annihilate bosses. You cast this little sticky bomb that goes on the boss. You beat up on it with any kind of attack to trigger it, and the more damage you laid into it, the more damage the flare lays into the enemy as it explodes several times over. It's so cool when you pull that off. So the sorcerer, in addition to being just really fun and crazy and enjoyable to play, it turned out to have some borderline game-breaking levels of utility as well. So I don't think it's balanced ideally, and I think it's just kind of it's kind of lopsided in terms of how you play it. Because on the one hand, Augural Flare is what you really want to do, what you really want to be doing if you're trying to be the most efficient. But on the other hand, the maester skills are extremely fun and hilarious. So ideally those would be the same skill in my opinion. That's one criticism I could give of it. And then the other thing is it was nerfed from Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. The sorcerer used to have I think it was called Glycel, and it was this brutal giant ice spear attack that would just impale drakes and was awesome. And there was other stuff I think that they did to nerf it, and it makes sense for the game, but it was already so broken, and it still is kind of broken and crazy to use in its own way. You might as well just balance the game around what you already had. So I would have liked to see more of that. But what we got is pretty great. Pretty great, so that's why it's going in S tier. It's going at the bottom of my S tier. It's a low S, but it's in there. It was good. Okay, next up is Mystic Spearhand. Mystic Spearhand I'm going to put as an upper A. I'm going to put it as a high A. And here's why. So I really like Mystic Spearhand. Mystic Spearhand in a lot of ways does feel like a main character vocation. It is one of the hybrid vocations. It is very complete. It's very all all encompassing. In fact, I did a stream. You can check it out on my channel. I did a stream where I tried to like make it through most of the map and fight as many bosses as I could, with no pawns, just doing the Mystic Spear Hand. And you can absolutely do that. One of the reasons is because the Mystic Spear Hand has a shield ability, like this magical shield ability that you can even bring into your Warfare builds that totally, it totally nullifies damage for like 3 to 5 seconds. It's crazy. It's crazy. You can have like a Drake like falling on you and it doesn't do any damage. It's nuts. So for that reason, I was able to like create my own like kind of playthrough, mini playthrough, just going around the open world with just the Mystic Spear Hand, throwing all my pawns in the river and just like taking on bosses all on my own. It was awesome. It was like totally changing the style of the game. Beyond that though, I was a little disappointed in some regards compared to the hype that I had for this Vocation, seeing it in the trailers. So my main thing that critique I could give is that it's more defensive oriented than I thought it would be. And that's fine, but it didn't look that way in the trailer. I saw Mystic Spear Hand, I saw him like warp striking and, having like this like shadow clone of himself attacking. And I was thinking more like Noctis from Final Fantasy 15, very like offensive based, maybe offensive based build with some versatility built in. But this was like but it turned out to be a very versatile, defensive, almost like a tank, especially because of that that magic shield. So that it was just different expectations different than my expectations. The other thing is like the magic shield does just make it really broken. Like you can really just like kind of play the whole game as Mystic Spear Hand. And I really kind of I would have appreciated if it was like a little less defensive, maybe give them a little more offense, because I had to use the Maester skill a lot to really get a lot of damage going. And that just annihilates your stamina. But like, make it so that it could fit in a little bit more with other vocations in the warfare, the warfare builds. I just wasn't able to kind of make it make sense in terms of using it with warfare and combining with mixing and matching with other vocations. So that could be a skill issue on my part, but just for me personally, I think it's great standalone. I think it's really cool. I think you could do entire playthroughs just as a Mystic Spear Hand. Maybe with a little bit more practice, I could get more of the hang of it. But I just think for the cool factor that it was, I feel like it could have been a little bit more offensive oriented and like maybe a little bit less of a skill curve to like figure out all this versatility, defensive ishness that is involved with it. I think that would have made it more fun. Basically, I don't think it would have made it better. I think it would have made it more as a vocation. I think it would have made it more fun as a vocation. But overall, was a lot of fun. Was cool to do. Just ultimately ended up not sticking it in my final roster. Compared to Thief and Sorcerer, I actually use even in my end game build. So, Magic Archer. Magic Archer is definitely going in S tier. I really do enjoy Magic Archer. I love Magic Archer. I beat the Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen with Magic Archer, and I loved it in this game. This game, so good. So good what they did to the Magic Archer in a lot of different ways. I don't even know how to quantify it. Just like things like the UI, the aiming reticles, and things like that. Massively improved. The skills that they give you for the Magic Archer there's so many cool skills that you can do. There's so many like cool tricks you can do. I saw like a Twitter video of someone throwing their pawn off a cliff, the pawn dying from impact, and then them hitting the pawn with the Magic Archer's revive ability. And then jumping off the cliff and the pawn catching them. Like that stuff is so cool. I personally love the fire arrow that you could turn into a homing arrow, and pilot it from like a third person, like aiming the arrow. That is like a ton of fun to use. And it works really great with the Thief in like a Warfare build, and you can use the Thief and the Magic Archer to recreate the original Magic Archer, which from Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, which also was able to use some dagger moves. And so that's really cool. All of that makes it really cool. Even on a solo playthrough, not talking about Warfare though, or not solo playthrough, but even like just playing as the Magic Archer directly, not in a Warfare build, it was a ton of fun. You had a ton of coverage against a bunch of different enemies. You could melt bosses if you really wanted to. You could, but a lot of vocations you can do that. But you could also really effectively manage mobs. There was a ton of different skills that involve managing mobs, and I really appreciated that. For this vocation, there was just a lot of coverage, but still like a certain level of difficulty, because you can't just stand next to an enemy with the Magic Archer. You're going to get your butt kicked. So it's kind of like a sorcerer in that sense. But the way it's not like a sorcerer, or the way that it's not like the Mystic Spear Hand, and that makes it different from the Mystic Spear Hand too. But the way that it's not like a sorcerer is that you have a lot of versatility, like the Mystic Spear Hand. You have a lot of coverage. So it's kind of similar to playing with the Mystic Spear Hand in that sense, or like the similar feeling that I got. I did feel very main character. I did feel very equipped for every situation, but I didn't feel like I was like broken because I didn't have a shield, and I had to think about positioning, and I could, and I had a lot of tools to plan my attack from far away. So even on my like playthrough of just the Magic Archer, just doing like just like wandering around the open world as the Magic Archer, I really enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a core part of my build, along with the my endgame build, along with the Thief. Awesome. There's so many other things I could talk about. The two different modes that they have, and the way that they like apply different, like a second layer to all of the different abilities. They like put a lot of thought into Magic Archer. They give it a lot of love. I think it makes up for, maybe like, some of the things that were left out, like Mystic Knight. I know a lot of people missed. If you didn't try Magic Archer and you liked Magic Archer at all in Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, try it in Dragon's Dogma 2. It's awesome. Love it. Love what they did with it. Trickster. Well, we know I think everyone knows where this is going. Trickster's in D. I'm sorry. Trickster just did not hit at all for me. And talking in chat, it's clear that Trickster did not hit at all for like a lot of you. Trickster's the only vocation I would say is bad, in my opinion. And it's bad because it's an action RPG, and you're just taking out the action. You're not giving me enough. The big issue is, so for those of you that don't know, like the Trickster, you cannot directly damage enemies unless you unequip your weapon and start hitting them with fists. You're supposed to aggro them and manipulate them to attack each other, or to walk off a cliff, or the Maester skill is kind of handy because it staggers even bosses, or it can stagger like even bosses like instantly. But it's, on paper, that sounds really cool and unique. And maybe in like a strategy RPG, like a turn-based RPG, anything like that, it would be kind of more unique and interesting. In practice, in an action RPG, it's not fun. Not fun. That was the one I actually did not enjoy maxing out. All these other ones I really like. I did enjoy like maxing out the vocation and being like, okay, I've played a good amount. This one I really could not wait to get rid of. So just respectfully, I apologize to any Trickster lovers, by all 5 of you. But that one was a hard no. They got to work on that. I think they could enhance it maybe by adding some kind of damage, maybe passive damage, poison even. As a Trickster, you didn't give the Thief like any kind of, I don't think they gave the Thief poison abilities, did they? I think that was just the Archer. But, they something to do passive damage that you could like stack, maybe status effects or something. But the actual aggroing system and what you can do with it leaves a lot to be desired, and it's hard to desire to do it. So I think that's enough. I don't want to like tear into it too much, but that's how I feel about that. So, all right, last but not least, we have the Warfarer. So Warfarer, I'm going to put in S tier. It's going to be in the middle, but I'm putting it behind Thief. and I'll get into why that is. But warfare is obviously, excuse me, is obviously essential for like late game builds. People that want to get like really into this game, really serious about like tinkering with different things, because it lets you wear any armor that you want from any of the different vocations, and it lets you equip as many different weapons as you want from all the different vocations, and it lets you equip up to realistically three skills from different vocations. Now, the Warfare's Maester skill is called I believe it's rearmament, and when you use that skill, it cycles linearly between all of the weapons that you have equipped. So on paper, I wasn't actually convinced that this was going to be that great, because it has reduced stats compared to the other vocations, and then it seems kind of clunky how you manage all of the weapons together and all the armor and everything. But the way they did it was pretty good. It was pretty good, and it was useful enough that it becomes like S tier for me in terms of like the fun factor and the usefulness of it. And I think the best thing that they did is that they let you equip an infinite number of weapons, or like as many weapons as you want, and they only count the weight of the heaviest weapon. I thought that was really smart. I didn't see that coming. I think that's really great that they did that. And then the actual process of switching between the weapons is still a little clunky, but it's faster than I thought it would be. And then lastly, the stat reduction is actually not that bad in the context compared to what you can do in terms of combining different things together. There's a lot of potential for you to easily overcome the stat reduction. And by mid game, late game, I didn't notice stat reduction that much. So I would say the main downside is the way in which you learn, or the way in which you switch between weapons with that rearmament skill is a bit clunky. Linearly switching by activating a skill that consumes a bit of stamina over and over, that requires a significant amount of skill at the game. Like, you're out of grug brain mode. You got to like really think about your stamina management. You got to think about, you got to pick an order of weaponry that you want and memorize it, remember it, and then train yourself to instinctively switch to the right weapon, switch, do it again, do it twice to get to a weapon, that's 2 slots away, or just, organize your weapons in such a way that you only ever like sequentially go through and use things. And so I think that kind of limits exactly what you can do. I would like to see that changed somehow. I don't know if changing it to having like a weapon wheel would like turn this into an action game, not an action RPG at that point. But we need something I honestly think like a weapon wheel would have been better, or some kind of, button, some kind of alternative to just cycling between, because that really took me a while to learn. And that limited me initially to just using the warfare with like a thief and magic archer weapons and skills. I recently added in sorcerer and started like playing around with using all 3, getting a bit more comfortable. But I just think that would lower the learning curve and allow people to like tinker a bit more if there was like a more fluid way to transition between the weapons. And yeah, so that's kind of my complaint with it. But as I've played with it and just gotten good, some of that is a skill issue. So I just have gotten a little bit better, and I am enjoying the warfare. I really enjoy that I can use thief and magic archer in combination with sorcerer to recreate the magic archer vocation from Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, but with its own unique twists, obviously, from Dragon's Dogma 2. And then I still have the sorcerer in there to to be able to platform, switch to be able to use the sorcerer's staff to platform different places. And when it comes to bosses, I can use Augural Flare on the sorcerer combined with Skull Splitter on the thief, and maybe like a move on the magic archer, if I need to hit the Augural Flare from far away to really melt bosses. And so that's what I've been playing around with a lot in the late game and post game is just annihilating bosses with that kind of combination. And that's kind of been a fun combination for me, both for bosses and for exploring the area. So, but I will say, I'm leaving Thief as my top because, as interesting and unique as the warfare is, having full thief with access to those 2 broken maester skills is just, it's too fun. It's too fun. And I know it's broken, but it's so fun. It's just like the speed and the cool factor and everything about it is like the most fun I've had in an action RPG probably ever. The spikes of excitement and fun out of that is insane. And it's not completely broken. Like it drains your stamina being in that invincible maester skill mode with the thief, but it's just fun. It's just fun. It's not even better. It's not even better than the warfare probably, because like if I got a little bit better with the way that the warfare mechanics handled, I would probably be, even more devastating with those. And I don't use just the thief in the end game, but like the most fun I had is with those maester skills. It made such a huge impact that I'm, unlike a lot of people, their tier list looks like this, but mine, it looks like this because the thief is it's just so fun. It's just so fun, man. So yeah, so that is my my full tier list with my explanations. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you agree, do you disagree? What do you and tell me what your favorite builds are, what your favorite vocations are. I really enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed what what you're able to do in this game. I'd like to create a video review at some point, so you can look for that soon. If you're new to the channel, like and subscribe. I would love to have you join us as I upload new videos here. And also, I stream on Twitch now. So in the past, I streamed on YouTube, but currently I stream on twitch.tv/Gaijin Hideout. I upload the VODs here, but would love to see in the live chat on Twitch as well. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.